Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for being here this morning. This is a sad morning because of the fact that we are coming once again to deal with the issue of sexual abuse in the church. It is sad because this should never have happened in the first place. I am deeply embarrassed and also angry about the fact that we have this problem and that at times there has been throughout our country a cover-up of this problem. Therefore, we haven't been able to reach out to victims the way we should. The first and most important thing is that we put victims first. Those who have been abused by priests or church workers, any clergy, we have to respond to their needs as quickly as possible to assure them of the church's love and also to assure them of our support as we walk together in this difficult time. We also have to have action. We cannot simply talk about these matters. We need to take concrete actions that will ensure that our children are safe. I believe that the children in the Diocese of Youngstown are safe because of our safe environment programs and because of the dedication of our clergy and church workers to make sure that they are protected. And we have a number of programs which are described on our website in terms of how we fulfill the requirements of the Charter for the Protection of Children. Today we're taking a major step and an important step in releasing the names of all those who have been credibly accused of sexual abuse. We went back to the founding of the diocese in 1943 and brought it up to 2018. One of the keys to understanding this list is the term credible allegation or accusation. A credible accusation against a priest or a deacon who has served in the Diocese of Youngstown is an accusation that, after a thorough and appropriate investigation and review of available information, appears more likely to be true than not in the judgment of the review board and is accepted as credible by myself as bishop. Now, the Diocesan Review Board receives all allegations, and the review board is comprised of a psychologist, the chair of the Mahoning County Board of Children's Services, 2 attorneys, a medical doctor, dean of the College of Health and Human Services at YSU, a member of the board of the Trumbull County Children's Services, director of the Trumbull County Children's Services, a Lutheran pastor, a parent, and a Catholic pastor. They take a look at allegations. We work with a private investigation firm that's made up of former FBI agents to investigate every claim that comes to us, and then they make a recommendation to me about whether or not this allegation is credible, and if credible, the priest is removed from ministry. We have today a list of priests who have, in the judgment of the review board, but even before the review board was created, going back many, many years, in the judgment of the bishop at the time, they determined that the allegation was a credible allegation, and therefore these men have been removed from ministry. You will see those names. I'm sure you understand that I cannot go into details about these people, but I can tell you this. Since 1943, there have been 551 diocesan priests, parish priests, in the Diocese of Youngstown. Also, since 1941, there have been 475 religious priests in the Diocese of Youngstown, priests that belong to religious orders. The total is 1,026 priests. Of that number, 31 clergy have behaved inappropriately. That is 3% of the clergy in the Diocese of Youngstown over a period of the period from 1943 to 2018. The national average is 4%, according to the John Jay study of this issue that was done in the early 2000s. But here in our diocese, the percentage has been 3%. 3% is far too many. 1% is far too many. We have to do everything possible to make sure that children are always and everywhere protected. I am very sorry that in a number of situations, the church has failed to protect our young people, and as a result, we have undermined trust. I became a priest basically because of the fact that I admired and trusted the priests in my parish in New Jersey as I was growing up. That trust is extremely important, and I hear it from people every day, that they trust the priests in their parishes, they talk to them, they feel comfortable with them, explaining to them their hopes and their dreams and their disappointments. When something like this happens, that trust is shattered, and it has to be rebuilt. It is also shattered not only by people who behave in this way, but by church authorities, specifically bishops, who instead of responding to this, try to cover it up. And I understand the idea of not creating scandal, but I'm concerned that some church authorities do not realize how serious this matter is and how much damage is done to a child through sexual abuse. We have to continue to work on that, and that is going to be a major issue of our bishops' meeting in November, to talk about this and to act accordingly, not just produce more documents. So today, we look at those who have offended in this way, and the purpose of putting this list out is for the victims, so that victims will know that they have been heard, that they have been responded to, and if there are other people who have been abused and have hesitated to come forward, I invite them to come forward so that we can help them to heal. If anybody has had any experience with abuse, I encourage you to contact law enforcement and also to contact us so we can be as helpful as possible. The sadness is that this happened. Our hope for the future, our promise to our people, is that this will not occur again. And we're putting this list out to clear the deck, be upfront, and to be completely open and honest so that anyone who is a victim can, if they see a name on this list that they recognize, or if there's been some incident with them, they should feel that they can come forward and we will help them in every way that is possible. But we will continue to follow the Charter for the Protection of Children and Young People, and we will continue to put victims first as we work on this important and tragic problem in our church. I am going to stop there, and I'd be happy to take any comments or questions. Jerry?
You were, if the right word is critical of other bishops, other colleagues that may not have done what they needed to do. The recent unveiling of names in Western Pennsylvania, there was a lot of criticism for not Bishop Persico, but his predecessors. There were criticisms of Bishop Malone while he was here. What do we do to correct that going forward? And as you mentioned in your meeting next month,
Next month, 11th.
What do we do going forward to make sure those who may have not done the right things in the past change?
Well, let's go back to the first part of your question. I think the first thing that we need to do, Jerry, is apologize to people who have been wronged. It's extremely important that we recognize that they have been wronged and not hesitate to say to them, we're very sorry that this happened. Aside from that, if we can help a person, if a person, for example, needs counseling or needs medication, we have to be there to support them in that so that they have an opportunity to talk this through and to come to some sort of personal peace. At the meeting next month, this is going to be a key topic. And I think, I've said this before, I said this in my letter that went out to all the parishes. If there is a bishop who is involved in this type of behavior or who has covered up this type of behavior, that bishop needs to either resign or be removed from office, because he simply cannot continue, he cannot be credible if he is a part of this. And that's why our staff that is involved with child protection has offered to meet with any victim. I have offered to meet with victims to express my sorrow for what they have done, to ask them how we can help. Sometimes when asking a victim how we can help, they'll say, I'm fine, I don't need anything. Other times they'll say, I could really use some help with my medical expenses. And so we step up to the plate and help them. I think that there are certainly different views on this, and I think we're going to hear that at the Bishops' Conference. But I can tell you that in a conversation I had last night with about 200 people, they asked me about basically the same question, and I said, the bishops that I have talked to, the bishops that I know and who are my friends, feel very strongly that we have to hold bishops accountable, and that we're going to talk about that at the upcoming conference.
Peter, you said that
Glenn?
You said this may not be the final list based upon if people respond to you saying come forward?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Glenn, what we're going to do is keep this updated in real time. If someone makes an allegation, we have to investigate that allegation. And sometimes people, they're so frustrated, or they've been holding this in for so long that they don't understand that it takes time to do an investigation. We work with a private investigation firm that are former FBI agents. Every allegation that comes in is not a credible allegation. We've had experiences where allegations have come in, we've done an investigation, and it's become apparent very, very quickly that this is an invented or made-up allegation. So in order to protect the integrity and the reputation of the person who is making the allegation and the person who is being accused, we have to do an investigation. That's only fair. In America, we talk about innocent until proven guilty. If the person is being accused, we investigate to find out, is there evidence that leads to credibility? That takes a bit of time, but what we're trying to do is to do that in as effective and as quick as possible so that we can respond to the needs of the person. I would say that most of the people who have made allegations, they have been proven to be credible. But there are certainly those who the allegations have not.
Any idea how many, in terms of numbers, how many allegations may have been made over those however many years? And then of the 31 that you deemed were credible, how many, if there's a difference that's significant, or how many accusations versus the number that were actually found to be credible?
I don't have the number of the allegations that have been made. What I can tell you is that we have received allegations from 76 victims, and we've responded to those allegations.
You mentioned the diocese was at 3%.
Yes.
The national average was 4%.
4%.
How disturbing is that 4% number?
Very. Now, I think that one of the things I'm very concerned about is the morale of our priests, because when this information, not only this information today, but for example, when the Pennsylvania report came out, it said that over a period of approximately 50 years, 300 priests had abused over 1,000 children. What it didn't talk about, and I understand why, but it didn't talk about the priests who didn't abuse children. And that's the important thing, I think, to remember here, that people have every reason to trust and care about their priests, because the vast majority of our priests have not behaved in this way. The fact that the national average, as determined by the John Jay School of Criminal Justice in an independent study that they did, that the national average comes to 4%, says to me that we failed with those 4% of our priests in terms of education, in terms of correct and thorough preparation for the priesthood. But then, along with that, along with not doing enough to prepare them, we also have to realize that in some of those cases, there was a cover-up. There was an attempt not to put the information out, to move priests from one parish to another without saying anything, which simply exacerbated the problem. Jerry?
You mentioned the trust issue with priests. Those, and we've done stories on the efforts by the diocese and others to draw more religious in.
Mm-hmm.
How does this affect that? Because I'm sure there's a stigma that even though 3% that becomes attached to this, that some may not want to because they're afraid at some point down the road they'll be accused.
I think that that's a serious problem. Now, I've talked to our seminarians, and I've talked to them about this issue, and I have another meeting coming up with them to try and assure them, as I want to assure the people of our diocese, that we are taking serious steps to prevent this from going forward. And our seminarians have to go through a long list of psychological tests and constant evaluations, and every once in a while, a bishop will get a call saying, I don't think this man should go forward for whatever reason, and then the bishop has to make a decision. But I am sure, Jerry, that there are people out there in the community who are thinking about being priests and are put off by this. And I think we as the bishops of the United States have to take concrete actions to hold ourselves accountable and to respond to victims so that they have the confidence that this is being handled.
At this point, do you anticipate any criminal charges coming out of this? And has the diocese at this point paid any settlements to victims?
I don't at this point anticipate criminal charges. There may be, but I'm not aware of that. Glenn, I can tell you that there are people who have reported abuse. It's been found credible, and when the county prosecutor has asked them if they'd like to prosecute, they've said no. They're understandably wary about their name going out in public. They just, a number of people have said to me, I just want this person out of ministry. I don't want this person anywhere near children, but many times they don't want to prosecute. But that's why I said it's important to take these matters to the civil authorities. When we get an allegation, one of the first things that we do is, as a matter of fact, the first thing that we do is contact the civil authorities, contact Children's Services here in Mahoney County, and tell them that we've had an allegation. And then we encourage people themselves to contact the civil authorities. So at this point, I am not aware of an impending prosecution. That may come up. This is a rolling ball, and we just don't know exactly what's going to happen each day. And then your second question was?
Has the diocese reached any settlements with victims?
Over time, since 1943, yes. And if I may anticipate your next question, you're going to ask me how much were those settlements? Approximately $500,000.
Since 1943?
Yes.
Can you describe the investigation firm that the diocese has? Who makes that up? Where are they from?
They're from here. They are former FBI agents that run a private investigation firm. By the way, Glenn, if I could just go back to your question, I just want to point out, because people ask me this all the time, any sort of settlements that are made do not come from collections that people give on Sunday. That money we have a line item for that in our budget. We also use money from interest on investments and some money that we have for restricted funds and savings. But it is not, people will say to me, we have our annual Bishop's Appeal, for example. Sometimes someone will send me a letter saying, I don't want any of my money for the Bishop's Appeal used for settlements or victim assistance. None of that money for the Bishop's Appeal goes to that. None of the money that comes in from collections from the individual parishes goes to that. We handle that internally and try to be as generous as possible.
Of the 500,000, what was perhaps the most recent, without getting into details of the case, because you can't, when was the last case that you had, or were these all prior to your coming here?
Brother Baker would have been the last case.
Can you say how much that one was?
I can find that out for you, Jerry. I don't know specifically what that was, but it's Brother Baker was. We received 47 allegations against Brother Baker. 47. So I mean that's serious.
Was he the most recent to be accused?
Yes. Any other questions? All of you, thank you very much for being here. Monsignor Zora, I believe, has the documentation with the names.